We're sure you're dying to know how 105 Di2 performs out in the real world. Dave, you've been riding it. It started raining, so why don't we go for a ride?
Let's do it. The heat wave is over, but the group set battle is hotting up.
Oh,
so let's go to a cafe. I'll tell you what it's like.
Should we do a tour of the cafes?
Let's do it.
Right, so the place I want to start, while I have a bit of almond croissant, you can tell the people about the levers, because they have changed. They're one of the contact points, so they really matter.
The lever ergonomics have changed. Now, it's a little bit of a nod to the aero position that a lot of people have been putting their levers in.
Yeah.
Their normal standard straight levers, tucking them in a little bit, just get a little bit more of an aero feel to them. They're reasonably narrow. I mean, they're quite easy to hold. I personally get on with that position quite well. It's going to be a case of suck it and see, really. I mean, I know that you don't think that they're quite as nice as the outgoing levers.
I mean, I liked the outgoing levers, but I rode them for so many years. I do like the extra length, because they've got, what, 4 millimeters longer. So it's especially good for people with big hands.
Yeah.
You're meant to be able to tuck 3 fingers under the shifter body, have one finger wrapped around the brake lever, and then obviously your thumb wrapping across the top. It's meant to be more secure.
Meant to be like that, although I find it's
something
difficult to get 3. I mean, I've got big fingers, so I find it difficult to get 3 fingers underneath. There's one thing that I don't like, which is the exit port for the hose, for the hydraulics, is on the inside, like it always is with these Shimano levers. It's a bit of a bump, which means that when you're holding it at the back of the hoods, I find it's a little bit uncomfortable there.
And while we're at the levers, what do you think about the buttons?
Okay, so Shimano have always used the same basic button layout. So there's 2 buttons behind the lever on each, and the standard setup is that the right-hand lever does your rear derailleur and the left-hand lever does your front. Yeah, click one to go one way and one to go the other way. Now, I personally have never found that the Shimano levers are an ergonomic wonder, shall we say. The 2 buttons are very close together. If you're wearing gloves, sometimes you miss shift. Also, I forget which one is which, and then I press the wrong one.
And then the shifters have also changed in the fact that they are now wireless.
Yeah, so 105 has gone to the same kind of system as Ultegra and Dura-Ace, in that it's semi-wireless. So the 2 mechs are wired together, there's a battery inside the frame, and then the shifters themselves are wireless, which makes the hard bit of wiring everything up a lot easier, because that's the hard bit, isn't it? Sticking it through your bars and through the stem and down there, and doing all that.
I'm going to say that it doesn't make a difference whatsoever, because you've still got to do the rear brake hose. So I think if you can route one of them, you can route a Di2 cable. Where's the batteries?
So there's button cells in the levers themselves, which should last for a very, very long time. Yeah. I mean, years. Because all they're doing is transmitting very briefly once you click a button. So yeah, they should last for ages.
Should we hit the road, do another few miles and...
A few miles is about 100 yards.
Yeah, a few more 100 yards and earn another piece of cake though.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you all about what the shifting is like on this new 105 Di2 group set.
So Dave, cafe number 2, we've come via the, well, fair, because we're both children. Shifting is the most important thing generally with a group set. So
yeah, I mean, the long and short of it is that the shifting is brilliant. I mean, let's go into a few of the details there. So the new rear mech, slightly longer cage than Ultegra and Dura-Ace. That's so it can fit a bigger cassette. So 11 to 36 is the biggest you can go, with a 50-34 at the front. That means you get a sub 1-to-1 ratio. Good for your steep climbs, good for your gravel bike, like this Oro here. The front mech looks a bit like the old Ultegra Di2 front mech.
I mean, we don't know that for sure, but
it is, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And the shifting at the front, completely brilliant. You know, never misses a shift. It's always good to have that motor pushing in, coming back again to do like really crisp shifts, even under power.
Yeah, and what's the extra cog doing? Is it working?
It is. I mean, it smooths out the gaps at the wider end of the cassette. So on the 11 to 34, you're getting a kind of less big jump right at the very end, basically. You know, it's just, and that's good for when you're struggling with your cadence on steep stuff. It's good to have that extra gear. I mean, most of the time you won't notice that it's there.
Yeah. So I've actually got Ultegra on the bike that I'm riding today.
Yep.
Really, what's the point of this group set?
No, and you have to say, like, for a rider like me, I've got a race bike. I've raced in the third cats, and I race on 105 mechanical because that's a good level group set for the kind of rider that I am.
Yeah.
I've always looked at going up to Di2. I've never really been able to justify that. Maybe I'll be able to justify it now.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to, because obviously there isn't a mechanical one anymore.
I was going to say, you do have to, when you're racing at our level, you've really got to race what you can replace. And realistically, if I binned one of those Ultegra Di2 rear mechs, I'd be looking at a few £100 as a replacement. And that's not something I want to do.
Okay, firstly, I'd like to say it's nice that you said our level as if we were racing at the same level there.
Cat 3s these days.
And also, the same sort of applies to the 105 Di2. Now, all of the brains of the system are in the rear mech.
Yeah.
And realistically, that's the part that you're most likely to break if you come off. So there is an issue there in terms of longevity. And again, it's an expensive thing. It's nearly £300 to replace that.
Yeah. You know, you were saying about having that on a gravel bike. I would have that on a cyclocross bike.
Absolutely. I mean, how long have you raced cyclocross and Di2 for now?
Years.
Years. And how many mechanicals have you had that are Di2 related?
The only one with a Di2 element was where my rear mech ripped off, but that was the hanger that broke, and then it went into the rear stay and wrote off the frame.
So not a Di2 issue?
Not a Di2 issue.
And generally that's what we found, isn't it? That Di2 would continue to work in appalling conditions.
Yeah.
One last thing to note, which is that the system goes to sleep because it's wireless between the levers and the rest of the system. So the first shift you make doesn't work, and every time you go, oh no, the battery's dead, and then you do it again, and then it's fine. So that's the only minor annoyance from the wireless system that they've chosen. Right, I've nearly finished my coffee. Shall we go and have a little more ride around?
Yeah, I think a big load of miles now. This is our final cafe stop of the day, and it's not exactly a cafe.
We couldn't face another coffee.
No, we've had too much caffeine. So, Dave, the last thing I want to talk about is the brakes.
Yep. Continuing the trickle down from Ultegra and Dura Ace, we've got the new servo wave brakes, more pad clearance, 10% more.
And it does make a difference, doesn't it?
It definitely does make a difference. There's a little bit more lever play to get to the bite point in these. It may just be the way they're bled, but actually I quite like them like that.
Yep.
And I've not had any brake rub, even when I've been deliberately heating them up on descents. So it's been really good. The rotors took a little while to bed in, but once they did, absolutely brilliant. I mean, the repeatability of the braking is the main thing that you get with the hydraulics, isn't it? And you know, we've had a lovely heat wave. It's been lovely and dry when I've been using these. They've been fantastic. I know they'll work in the wet. I know they'll work when it's grotty out. They're great, they're really confidence inspiring, modulation is good, everything you'd want for good braking is right there.
Well, Dave, thank you very much for your thoughts on the new group set. Hopefully you're not giving that bike too soon.
Unfortunately I am.
Unlucky for you. If you want a closer look at the tech claims of 105 Di2, we've got a great video on that with Jamie. Before you go, remember to like. 87% of you are not subscribed, so subscribe before you go, and we will see you in the next one.